So outline to me some of Labour's top priorities ahead of the election.
So what we're setting out this week is focusing on the real future of our country, and that's our young people. And far too many of our young people have been failed by this SNP government, and they aren't getting the support they need either in the classroom or when they leave the classroom and enter the world of work, or indeed further or higher education. And that's why we have got to change that imbalance that currently exists. And one area we're focusing on today are those ASN pupils. The number of ASN pupils has quadrupled in Scotland since 2010, but under this SNP government at the same time, the number of ASN teachers has fallen by almost 20%. That's why we're saying we will support those pupils, we will support those teachers and everyone in those classrooms and those schools by having 1,500 new classroom assistants funded centrally by a new Scottish government to make sure every young person can thrive.
So one of the reasons for that big increase in the pupils with additional support needs is that the definition in Scotland is really broad. So that includes young people who have English as a second language or are especially gifted or are young carers. And we use a different definition in Scotland than in England. And England sends very specifically the sort of additional needs that you would think of, complex needs that young people have in additional support needs specific schools. Is there value in redefining the definition of ASN?
Well, I think if you look at what's actually happening in classrooms, you're right, there are lots of different people that will have different needs and different challenges in any individual classroom. But if you can imagine what's happening in that classroom, you've got not enough classroom assistants, you've got a number of ASN teachers falling by 20%, you've got many teachers who can't even get a full-time contract in many education authorities, and you've got larger classroom sizes and more pupils in that classroom who have behaviour issues as well as broader ASN needs. And the use of mobile phones and social media has only added to that pressure. So you can imagine what's happening in that classroom. A teacher is trying to teach in that classroom and they're having to deal with all those issues at the exact same time. They don't feel they've got the resources they need, and they feel as if they've got a more distracted classroom at the same time. So that's why we will get more support teachers into those classrooms. It's why we'll have more classroom assistants, which gives the ability of more direct contact time with those pupils. It's why we'll ban mobile phones in those classrooms so young people can concentrate on their studies and their education rather than on behaviour issues right now. And we'll make sure that we are maintaining PEF funding permanently in our classrooms so we can get additional resources into that classroom. That is a more holistic approach to take. Alongside that, we'll be setting out more detail about how we promote literacy, numeracy, science and digital in our education so that every young person is ready for the world of work after they leave school.
And the mobile phone ban is more straightforward in some places than others. Edinburgh gives all young pupils an iPad, so you can remove the mobile phone, it doesn't affect their learning. Resource-wise, in local authorities where young people are being told to bring their phones to school, bring their tablets to school, what will you do to ensure that they have equal access to the digital skills that they need?
So you're right, where we have to get the balance is digital, and digital access is now an integral part of the skills a young person needs, but also the ability that most workers need right across the country. So we have got to balance that digital education with the fact that right now, because of mobile phones, because of online bullying, and because of the way that algorithms work and the short videos work on social media feeds, it is also damaging our young people's mental health, damaging their brains in terms of that real dopamine hit that they're getting that they shouldn't be getting at that age, as well as impacting on their broader education. So rather than the voluntary approach that's currently taken, where the government has taken a standoff approach and leaving it in the hands of teachers and head teachers to make those decisions and to have those hard conversations, we will make it a blanket ban of mobile phones in classrooms and in schools. And of course there has to be more rollout of digital infrastructure, but I think a sensible approach can be taken for when a digital device is needed for part of research and part of learning, and when it should be either in a locker, in a pouch, or in a school bag.
And I wonder what success will look like for you for a Scottish Labour education system, because you mentioned positive leaver destinations is one of the big things that is used as a measurement, and you said that the Scottish Government looks at 0 hours contracts as a positive destination for young people. What is a successful situation?
So if you look at the stats, so around 1 in 6 young people in Scotland aren't in education, training or employment. that is not a badge of success. That is too many young people not getting the support they need, either at school or when they leave school, or to get into access to training or to get access to employment. So I think the measure for success for us has to be, is do we live in a country where a young person's opportunities are defined by their ambition and their ability, or is it a Scotland we live in where it's defined by their postcode and their social background? Right now it's defined by their background and their postcode. That's not acceptable, it's not good enough. And that's why we'll fundamentally change our education system so our teachers get the resources and the support they need, so our schools become safe places for people to learn, where every young person gets the chance to succeed, and then everyone is supported, whether they choose to go to university and we'll maintain free tuition, whether they choose to go to college and we'll properly resource our colleges, or whether they choose to go into an apprenticeship and we will deliver 9,000 new apprenticeships in those key growth areas, or indeed if they choose to go direct to employment, where they should have secure employment and well-paid employment. That is the right path for every child. There's not one single path though, with too often the culture in Scotland being that if you go to university it's the gold standard and everyone else deserves a second-class service from their government. I think every young person in Scotland deserves an equal chance.
And just finally,
no problem.
Obviously violence in classrooms is one of the huge issues at the moment, and there was mention at the weekend of using campus police officers to try and tackle that, and I wonder if you could speak a bit more about that.
So for example, take my own region of Glasgow as an example. I know a number of schools that have a campus police officer on their campus, and in actual fact, I know the really positive relationship that the campus officer has with the teachers and with the pupils, so they're able to nip things in the bud before they become bigger issues. So it requires a joint up approach, because I think there is a broader issue here, which is a sense of safety and security. If we're being honest with ourselves, our young people too often don't feel safe and secure in the classroom, they don't feel safe and secure in their communities, and they don't feel safe and secure in our streets. And sadly, in really tragic circumstances, there are far too many young people who don't even feel safe and secure in their own home. And that is not acceptable if it's one child in that circumstance. So we have to address that fundamental issue. And that goes back to the first question you asked me. If government is to be about anything, if Scotland's to be about anything, then it has to be about the future of our country, and our young people are the very definition of that future.